So hi everyone, let's remind ourselves briefly something small on classification of hypersensitivity reactions. Hypersensitivity is one of the immunopathologies that we know. We have three immunopathologies, that is autoimmunity, and then the second one is immunodeficiency. The third one is hypersensitivity. And this is what we want to look at it in terms of classification. And this one is the case where the body attacks itself. That is what we are calling the autoimmunity. And then the immunodeficiency is a case whereby an individual's immunity goes down because of a number of factors. It could be due to chronic diseases. And then we come to hypersensitivity, which is exaggerated reaction of the immune system to an individual's tissues. So it causes inflammation in that process. A quick review on immunoglobulins. We have 5 of them. We have 5 classes of immunoglobulins. We have IgG, IgE, IgM, IgD, and IgA. What you need to remember on these immunoglobulins is that in terms of molecular weight, IgG is the smallest, and then IgM is the largest. Another fact you need to remember on immunoglobulins, particularly on IgG, this one here, is that it's the only antibody that is present at birth. So the newborns, they are born with this type of immunoglobulin. These other classes develop later. And what is the reason? Why do we have IgG being present at birth and these ones to follow later? There are 2 reasons. Number 1, it is because of the molecular size of this antibody. So we are talking about the size. And then number 2, it is because of what we call the receptor. On the placenta, we have a receptor that is only compatible with IgG and not these other immunoglobulins. So at birth, the baby is born with IgG alone, and then these other ones will develop later. Another thing you need to remember is that IgM, whenever there is an infection, this is the immunoglobulin that is produced first, so it will be the first to attend to the antigens. So whenever there is an acute infection, the first antibody to respond is IgM. So when we go back to the classification, it's called Gell and Coombs classification of hypersensitivity reactions. We have 4 classes of hypersensitivity. So we have hypersensitivity type 1, we have hypersensitivity type 2, hypersensitivity type 3, and 4. So what happens in type 1? We look at the immune mechanism, is that The antibody in question is IgE. So the immune mechanism is IgE with mast cells. And the time taken whenever there's this reaction is just a matter of seconds to minutes. The key mediators of this type of reaction is histamine. Remember, whenever there is an inflammation, we have what we call inflammatory mediators. And therefore, in this case of type 1 hypersensitivity, the mediator that is produced is what we refer to as histamine. And therefore, the examples of type 1 hypersensitivity, we can have anaphylaxis cases, we have allergies, and one of the examples we can give in this case is what we call allergic conjunctivitis. So let's look at type 2. In type 2, the immune mechanism is IgG and IgM, and this happens on the cell surface, on the surface of the cells. Therefore, the cells undergo what we call lysis. This type of hypersensitivity takes minutes to hours, and the key mediator in this case is the complement. Examples of this type of hypersensitivity is hemolytic anemia. You can also have transfusion reactions, among others. We look at type 3, and the mechanisms, the immune mechanisms in this case is IgG and IgM. So what happens in type 3 is that there is a combination of antigen and an antibody, what we call antigen-antibody reaction. They form what we call immune complexes, and these immune complexes, they get deposited into tissues to give the complications related to this type. And this type of hypersensitivity reaction takes hours to days. The key mediators in that case is the complement systems. Example of type 3 hypersensitivity reaction is systemic lupus erythematosus, what we are calling SLE, and also rheumatoid arthritis. Now we look at type 4, and we are saying in type 4, the immune mechanism is T cells. The time it takes is 1 to about 3 days. The key mediators in this case, we have T helper 1 and T helper 2 cells. Examples of this type of hypersensitivity reaction is what we call type 1 diabetes mellitus. There's also tuberculin injection, and then we have what we call contact dermatitis. So this is just a quick reminder, an example. You can use A standing for allergy and representing type 1, C standing for cytotoxic representing type 2, I standing for immune complexes representing type 3, and D standing for delayed type of hypersensitivity, in this case type 4. Thank you.